live with the butterflies. Mesmerized, mesmerized by you.
Hey, you guys, and welcome back to another episode of Diary of a Real Estate Mom. And also, welcome to the season 1 finale. And today feels different. Not heavy, just reflective. Because when I look back on this past year, I don't just see months, I see lessons. I see stretch marks on my spirit. I see growth that didn't feel like growth while it was happening. 2025 did not come to play with your girl, okay? It tested my patience, it tested my faith, it tested my strength, it tested my boundaries. It also tested my willingness to finally choose myself without apology. And some of those lessons, they came loud as hell, okay? Other ones, they came quietly. Some came through people, some came through loss, some came through waiting, some came through letting go. And look, none of them was easy, okay? One of the biggest things that 2025 taught me is that healing isn't linear. You don't just wake up one day healed, You circle back, you spin the block, you revisit, you relearn, and you release again. And that doesn't mean that you fail. It means you're human. 2025 also taught me that peace, my peace, is expensive. And not in money, but in choices, in boundaries, in distance, in the things that I stopped explaining, in the parts of myself that I finally learned to protect. And not everybody can afford that version of you that comes with peace. This year, it showed me that not everything you lose is a loss, because some things leave just simply because their assignment in your life is complete. Some doors, they close because the room is too small for who you're becoming. Some relationships, they shift because you're no longer who you were when they first entered your life. I always think about it like this, and shout out to my real Grey's fans. They'll completely understand. So think about Grey's Anatomy and Christina Yang. She was one of my favorite characters, okay? When Christina left the show, it didn't mean we hated her. It didn't mean that those seasons that she were in were bad. Those were actually some of the best seasons, if we being real. Her exit didn't erase her impact on the show. It didn't cancel what she contributed. It simply meant the next season was written without her. And we still loved Christina. We just watched a different storyline unfold. And see, that's how some relationships and seasons in life are too. Not everything ends because it was toxic or wrong. Sometimes it ends because the story is shifting. The chapter changes, the cast changes, the season changes. And that does not make the previous season any less meaningful. It just means you've entered a new one. And 2025 taught me this too. Waiting is not wasted time. That some prayers are answered in preparation before manifestation. That sometimes God is more concerned with who you're becoming than what it is you're asking for. I learned that I can be tired and still be faithful. I can be hopeful and still be hurting. I can be growing and still be grieving. Two things can be true at the same time. This past year, it also taught me, how to sit with myself, without noise, without distraction, without performance. It taught me that stillness isn't empty, it's informative. That silence isn't absence, it's alignment. And one of the hardest lessons I learned this past year is that you can love people deeply and still need space from them. You can be grateful for what was and still need to move on. You can honor the past without living in it. And finally, 2025 taught me that I'm stronger than I thought, but I no longer want strength to be my survival strategy. I want softness with boundaries. I want peace with discernment. I want joy without guilt. I want rest without apology. I decided I wasn't closing out 2025 with resentment. I was closing it out with wisdom. And as I step into what's next, I'm carrying clearer boundaries, quieter confidence, deeper faith, and a gentler relationship with myself. So sis, as we close this season and this chapter, I want to ask you something, not for the comments, but just for you. What did this past year teach you about who you are and what you need? Because the lessons don't end at the calendar change. They continue in who we choose to become next. So if this season of Diary of a Real Estate Mom has spoken to you, has helped you, or even reminded you that you're not alone, I truly thank you for being here, truly. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notifications so you don't miss the premiere of season 2. And if you want to binge all the episodes, there's a Diary of a Real Estate Mom playlist on my channel where you can find all of the season 1 episodes. So I truly thank you guys for sticking with me throughout this season. It is greatly appreciated. I will see you guys in a few weeks for season 2. Bye.